Okay, welcome back. Let's take a look at these statements from your anticipatory set. You're also going to find them in your handout. And if you want to make notes right on here, feel free to do so. All right, looking at these statements, what did you think? True or false? Number one, this is false, that it does take 1 year, you can with some students, myself included, to develop their second language skills for oral language. And this is often called playground language or social language or BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills. These are your survival skills. This is, where's the bathroom? Let me talk about my weekend. The kind of language that kids or people use with their friends. It's light. It's the easy language that you may have learned if you have taken a class, just some introductory classes in another language, or if you travel to another country and you can use some working knowledge of that target language. So really, again, it's false. It requires students many, many more years to become fully proficient in the academic language and have a command of reading and writing. Generally, it can take 4 to 6 years, depending on the instruction and factors within the student. It can take up to 10 years to become proficient in another language. So keep that in mind. That brings us to number 2. If they already speak English, do they need any more instruction? Actually, yes, they do, because like we said in number 1, just because they can speak it doesn't mean that they're fully proficient. And this is an issue to really pay attention to. Students definitely at levels 2, 3, even level 4, we'll talk about levels in a little bit, those students can really trick us, okay? They can sort of pass as English speakers because their social language is so good. However, their academic language is not there. They're going to need a lot more scaffolding, a lot more targeted instruction to get there. And that's our job, because all teachers are language teachers. And students really need some specific scaffolding and skills, strategies to get those skills up, to reduce the gap. The next one, does transfer occur automatically? Actually, this one is false too. It doesn't just happen. There are some things that do sort of occur naturally. Definitely if the two languages are similar, like for example English and Spanish are really similar, and there are things called cognates that are sound and are spelled similarly in both languages, like the word nation, N-A-T-I-O-N, is the word nación, N-A-C-I-O-N in Espanol. So those are similar words, and those kind of transfers can happen pretty quickly. However, most language is more complex than that. We're talking about deep structure and having metalinguistic awareness to really understand the semantics behind what we're saying. Language is very complicated, so it does not happen automatically. Something to note here with number 3 is the stronger the proficiency is in the student's first language, the more easily the transfer will happen to the second language. And that's the crux of bilingual education. Build up the first language, the second language will become easier. And it really does, the research really does support that. Okay, number 4. Well, this really speaks to when do we start introducing reading to students who are learning English. This again is false. That we want to expose literacy in English to students learning English as soon as possible, right from the start. Oral language is super important, so we want to develop language and literacy simultaneously, just like we do with native English speakers. If you think about a kindergarten, first grade classroom, we're building oral language and we're building those early literacy skills at the same time. So we want to do the same thing if you're learning English as a second language. We want to introduce English early, and we want to introduce that in the form of reading, writing, and speaking. Finally, number 5. This again talks about literacy, and what we want to remember here is that literacy can happen both in both languages at the same time. this is kind of what we're doing and what we're experiencing in our dual language programming. Yes, we start with more Spanish in the early grades, but the goal is to become biliterate. So eventually students are having a 50% of their instruction in English and 50% of their instruction in Spanish by 4th and 5th grade. So they're actually going back and forth between the two languages, and they're really able to become fully biliterate. It's pretty amazing. So just keep those myths in mind as we move through our learning together. Let's talk about our learning targets. As you know, we're going to spend some time, and we already have, building background. Huge important strategy. And then after we build some more backgrounds for you, and I'm going to give you some more content about basic ELL principles, we're going to talk about some strategies. And if you'd like, you'll be able to set some goals for your practice. Just so you're aware, this webcast is really focusing here, and then I'm going to be giving you some strategies, or I'm going to be giving you some resources to dig into the strategies on your own. Okay, I may be developing another web course for this at some point, but for today's learning, and for generally this whole module is going to focus here. And if you're really interested in the strategies, that's great, but we do recommend that everybody learns the background first. Okay, you can jump right into the strategies, but it's very, very important to understand some of the theory behind this. And they do really feed into each other. Okay, so just keep that in mind, please. I'm going to go through some quick data. You can see here in the School District of Waukesha that we look at English language proficiency for the last, 10 years, and this only brings us up to 2009, that there's been a significant growth, okay, moving up to quite a large percentage of our students with different language backgrounds. All the green are the non-ELLs. Okay, so students in most of our students. However, our English language learner population is growing tremendously. And something else to think about is that if you look at this, this is Wisconsin. So this is the Wisconsin trend. Yeah, and then if you look at this one, this is the school district. So we have actually experienced more growth overall, still the same trend line. But look at our Spanish speakers. We have such a huge population here, which is why we do a lot of our bilingual and dual language programming.